Hey, I say
Good
hey
morning.
every single time.
I know. Well, how about good morning this
Good
time?
morning. Well, because people maybe watch it in the evening.
Oh, that's true. Well, for us, it's morning.
Yeah, really. So today we're talking about, I got to look at the monitor, the new Zacuto Z-Rail ball mount.
Right. Yeah, this thing is,
Pretty damn cool.
yeah, it kind of, we'll just get right into it. It kind of grew out of a few things. We were making mounts specific for the top of our cages to like Atomos Ninjas and the other Atomos recorder monitors. And then so out of that grew this mount, which is really, here, I'll hold it up here in the close-up, you can kind of see it. It grew out of those mounts, but this is not specific. It uses our Z-Rail technology, so it grabs this rail that is on the top of all our cages, and any NATO rail for that matter. And then it has a rail that you can mount to the bottom of monitors.
Yeah, I mean, this rail is really cool. Okay, so here you can see what, and we've kind of been playing with this for years now when we used to use the fangs. But there's a track on the bottom of that piece of rail. And when you slide whatever device you have all the way to the face of your device, it prevents it from rotating. Yeah, it's a simple little thing.
It's a simple rotation thing. And that will be part of, that'll come with this Z-Rail ball mount.
Right.
All right, so essentially it's a little arm. We're using our arm technology in here too. It has the ball in it. So with one twist of the lever at the bottom here, it loosens the ball so you can adjust it in all these directions. It also allows you to slide it on here. So that's all in one lock, which is kind of convenient. And the top lock is right here, and of course that's so you can quickly remove the monitor. And here you can see, I don't know if I catch the light right, you can see the Z-Rail on the bottom there.
Yeah, and you see the track and how you can put actually quite a fat device on there.
Right.
And
but it's attractive. It's not in the way in the front. Let me see if I can catch the light again. Yeah, see how it's just all flat, nice. We used to have the fangs in the old style. This is much nicer, actually.
Oh, this is much nicer. Well, the other thing is an arm is going to be much heavier, much larger, and it's all kind of got to be collapsed to get in that position.
Slides on any Z-Rail. It could be NATO rail that you have on another rig. There's the top portion, of course.
And I think that just lives on your monitor forever.
Yeah, no, that would. Or whatever device you're using this for. Lock it down. It's a new twist, so to speak, on the age-old ball mount that had the screws in it, which always came undone.
Oh, those were horrible because then what you had to do was, first off, it had a screw. It either had a cold shoe on the bottom, which is garbage, and then it had a screw with that tie-down nut on the top. And every time you go to move the thing, it unscrewed itself, and it was kind of useless.
And they were inherently weak, you know what I mean? So if you're holding like the big, Atomos recorder on there with the batteries on it, you need something like this that's strong, that has that proven ball mount that we have in our arms on there.
While you guys were sort of on this topic, I have a quick question about why you would want to use this specifically over an articulating arm, and if there are certain camera rigs or certain positions that it's better to have an arm or better to have a mount like this.
Really, it comes down to size. When you're wanting a monitor that's tight and close to your camera and your face, you don't want a lot of that arm, because a lot of that arm will get folded up and it's just kind of in the way, that bulk. With this thing, it's pretty tight. Especially when there's shots where you're going to be looking up at the monitor. You can do that. With an arm, you'd have those sections sticking out.
Yeah,
it's basically size.
It's a different device. So an arm is really great, was originally invented for an assistant. So you had your camera and your rig was on a tripod, and then you had an arm that brought the screen to where your assistant could pull focus, was really the initial reason for an arm. Or you could bring it very far forward and you could focus with it.
It needed reach.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you just need an articulation for the monitor or recorder right in its place.
Right. Now what's great about this is if you need to do a low mode shot, you can flip your screen down like this. If you need to do a high mode shot, you can flip your screen back like this. You can hold your camera super high and you can look straight up at it, which is this in a news conference, that's what you're doing.
Yeah, right. When you got to get over the tops of everybody else's
Of
head.
Everybody else, you got to be the tallest guy there.
Exactly.
All right. Why don't we introduce our guest today?
Right. Someone who's actually had it in the field. Mike Steidley. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How's it going today, guys?
Great. So I know we've worked with you in the past on different things, our other cages. Of course, you work with Atomos and Panasonic. So you're like the perfect person for this and to comment on this. Give us your impressions and a little bit about your background so our viewers know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so just to give you guys the cliff notes, I'm a 12-time mountain bike national champion, so I do a lot of action sports work as well as doing some commercial directing. But for me, I think it's all about speed and just portability. So one thing that's been really cool about the monitor mount that I've been loving is it works with the entire ecosystem. So I have it set up on my GH5 back there. That's generally my B cam. And I've got it set on my EVA 1 right here. It slides right in and out of the rail, which is really convenient. And then I can break this thing down, slide the top handle off, pop this piece off, and get the whole thing into my backpack, in record time. You don't have to sit there, with the articulating arms. You'd have to make it into a wrench, crank on it, fiddle with the thing. It just took way, way too much time. It does come with this cool little piece which you can attach. So if you want to bolt this up onto like the top of a quick clamp, I normally will put this on top of the Movi. I can slide my monitor right out. I've got the new Atomos Ninja V here. So that'll come right out, and then I can just slide this piece here, slide that in, and then be up and running and change film tools really quick. So I like to go from like a handheld situation to a gimbal situation really quick. So I'll pair that with, one of these guys, and then I've got my VCT plate down here, and then I put another one of these on the bottom of the Movi, and then basically it makes it so that I can go from handheld to Movi to tripod or slider without taking more than a minute and having to worry about, like, when you're rushing, dropping something on the ground, because everything's got, the safety rails and you're not fumbling with the little arm. So that's what I've been most excited on.
Right, so he makes the point that I neglected to say before is speed. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all about speed and not fiddling with screws. Of course, we hate screws,
Well, the other thing is that he brought up is that you can go from thing to thing to thing really quickly.
Right.
That's what's so great about it, and boom, into your case in like 1 second. There's another issue that we didn't talk about that we used to talk about, which is when you have these sort of Noga arms, I'm going to call it, one of the issues that we've had in the past is that the screws tend to be very long, and we would drive them up into the monitor. And when we had our rental business, people would drive the thing so deep into there that it would literally fry stuff in the monitor.
Well, there was ways you can keep that from happening, but I mean, it would happen once in a while, yeah.
This is the full-size 7-inch Atomos monitor. So I've got two of the bigger Sony batteries that are powering that on the back. So I've definitely put a good amount of weight on it. And then, here I've got it flipped kind of upside down, so that way I can tip it all the way forward. That way when I'm using the top handle, I can get the screen 90 degrees down, because the monitor will go pretty much on top of the lens, almost kind of like you see right here. So you can get really, really low, which is perfect for action sports. And then a lot of times when I would use like a Z arm or like an articulating arm, when you would do that, it would always like be kind of finicky, or the framing would be, you would never get it perfectly symmetrical, whereas this just tips forward. So, you don't have the monitor askew, so you start questioning, your symmetry and just making sure that everything is kind of framed up properly. So that's kind of neat to have. You can also just slide here. You can see the wooden handle. If you want, you can pull that right out. And then if you want to get handheld and just hold the camera right up into your body, you can just take this top handle, right off, and then, not even have to do that and just use like the side handle just to kind of make your rig really small. So
now it was balanced, and it looks pretty balanced in that configuration. The cool part is that rail that he has it on, if he wanted to, he could use this more like on a tripod, where that entire mount could slide on the top edge of that handle, and he could have that sort of extender viewfinder kind of flavor if he's on a tripod, and have that all the way in the back.
Yeah, in this case, I don't know if you've done that, Mike, before, but the top of the handle is also Z-rail in this case, and you could slide it all the way back and mount it on the top of the handle. Obviously, you can't use the handle as well, but if you're on a tripod, configuration, that's what you might do.
While we're looking at these pictures, we had a comment from Victor, who does say hi, by the way, about that. He says the part still looks a little bit tall, but now looking at these pictures, Victor and I were chatting a little bit about how it's nice to have the clearance over the top of the handle, but he's still wondering if it's tall. Jens, did you pick the height for a specific reason, or Mike, what do you think about that after having used it?
No, the height is really driven by the physics of it. You need enough room to have the proper working jaws, and we just shortened it as much as we could. But after looking at it, we decided that's a decent length, because you do need to get over certain things. If it's too short and you try to bend it forward or back, it's gonna probably either hit something or fall behind something. So it just kind of worked out that it seems to be just the right amount of height to it. But you need that because the ball occupies a certain amount of space. The jaws need a certain thickness, and so that's just how it works.
It's about the same as what an arm would be collapsed. And the other thing is you need a certain amount of clearance, like you said, to cover all these other pieces of equipment. You can always rock that thing forward a little bit if you want to get your monitor at a slightly lower profile.
What I was about to say before Rachel jumped in was that in the case of the photo we were just looking at, he was using our Z-rail that's built into the top plate, which gives it the lowest profile you can get. But other people, if they don't have our top plate or our handles, you get a piece of NATO rail or Z-rail, and you can screw that right to the top of any cheese plate that's on top of any rig for that matter. It'll be slightly higher, but it does the same thing essentially. But this is a whole ecosystem that we would recommend, of course.
Ooh, I like that.
So that's a GH5 setup right there with the 7-inch monitor, and you can see it's tipped pretty far forward on there, which really balances the rig out. And then so for handheld, it works really, really well. You can just get 2 hands on there and be able to, have nice control, and it just feels nice and balanced in your hands. So, and like I said, you can, if you're switching between film tools, you can just slide that thing right out, pop it into, go from the EVA to the Movi to the, the GH5, and then use that same monitor on, any different device that you might be using that day.
Right. Now, getting back to Victor's comment about the height, if he's using a GH5 like we saw in that picture and he wants a lower profile, wants the monitor a little lower, we make an Atomos specific hinged mount for it that slides right onto that Z-rail.
That's really low.
I should say that screws onto the top of the
cage. That one's very, very low profile. I've used that one a pretty good amount, and if you're just using the GH5, I would say that's a really good option. Right. But one thing I find is that I'm kind of using the monitor for maybe focus pulling, and then maybe I'm switching it to the gimbal to monitor that way. So with the Atomos specific one, you can't really switch back and forth. So I think that this option's a little bit better. It is a little bit taller, but you also don't have the Z-arm or the articulating arm. In this case, you could see if it was going left or right from that kind of center line of the rail, it would be pretty close to your hands, and then you have to kind of get your hands in there, fumble around, whereas this is just one little lever. You can pop it, loosen the monitor, put it where you need to be, and lock it back in place, and not have the, once you loosen one of those articulating arms, the monitor goes this way, and then the rig goes that way, and it's just a hot mess. So this is a much cleaner, kind of simplified way to, to do it. But if you are looking for lowest profile possible, then the GH5 cage specific monitor is technically a little bit lower, but it doesn't have nearly as much versatility. And then you can't turn the monitor 90 degrees sideways for a focus pull move.
It's not an arm replacement. It's another tool in your toolbox for a little more specific, tighter, simpler.
Now, here's the part. If you want to go onto an arm, let's say all of a sudden you hop onto a tripod and you have an arm that you slip on there, that part goes right on the arm as well.
And I think for me in the field, we're always rushing. We're always standing on rocks or like an urban environment or just somewhere crazy. And the last thing you want is the monitor to go crashing down. So just having something that's really secure is really comforting, because, when you're on, hour number 9 and you've been carting your gear all through the woods or something on an action sports shoot, the last thing you want is to be going to adjust your arm, having it fall over sideways, and then, it just makes a mess. So that's never any fun.
Mm-hmm. What do you got, Rachel?
Yeah, just a couple questions to wrap up. And just to clarify on what arms we sell on the arm front, we sell 2 different kinds of arms. One kind that ends in little rods with quick release mounts you can take on and off. And then the newer kind, which end in these little mini Z rails, which you can similarly, or quick release, you can keep them on your accessories. It's the same as the mini Z rail that's on the ball mount. You can move them back and forth. Mm-hmm. But we've got a question here from James Wasserman, who says that he sees this as clearly useful for mirrorless cameras. He's got a C100 Mark II, which he's got our helmet on top with the Canon handle, where a helmet sandwiches in between. And he would love to have something that goes into the flash mount. Is there a way to use the ball mount in that configuration, or with the C100 Mark II in general?
I don't know if I would recommend using any of you're talking about the hot shoe mount, I'm assuming. That's not the most solid connection there, especially if you're using heavier monitors like the 7-inch she was talking about with batteries on it. I would, if you have a helmet or anything that has 1/4-20 holes in the top, I would screw a little piece of Z-rail to it and just use that exclusively.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, we have one last question. It actually came in through the email blast that we sent earlier, but maybe some other people have the same question, which is whether our Z-rails, the base Z-rails, not the mini ones, are also NATO compatible. And they are, and they're also compatible with other stuff as well. Jens, do you know the list?
Yeah, well, it's compatible with all those things. The red rail, the Picatinny, the NATO rail, Z-rail, it's all the same standard that we use. So,
yeah, this rail was invented eons ago.
Right.
And we've all sort of adapted to the same rail. They look a little different, but they're all the same width and whatever. Besides that, even the jaw width is got a lot of capability to move in and out. So it'll lock onto anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Hey, Mike, I want to thank you for working with us and being on the show.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks so much for having me on the show, and it was cool using the mount. I really have been liking it, and I think it's going to be in my everyday kit.
Well, we'll keep sending you stuff because we want to get your opinion. It's valuable.
Especially when you're doing that kind of shooting, man. You are the jumping out of a Humvee type of guy that really
jumping out of the plane kind of guy.
Yeah, really. That really takes this to the nth degree, and that's what we want, man. You got to be honest. If it's working, if it's not, give us your feedback, and we will tighten it up.
Well, that's the thing. In those situations, you got to depend on your gear, and a lot of this stuff happens really fast. So you can't be sitting there kind of fumbling around when you're trying to go from one film tool to the other, because you'll just miss an opportunity that you'll never get back.
Okay, and if people want to see your work, what's your website address?
So all of my athlete stuff is under Mike Steidley, which is just my name, and then my production company is Vision Aerial Media, and so you can put that into Facebook, IG, pop it into Google, and you can find all the stuff that I have out there.
Rachel will put it in as well.
All right, check out Mike's footage because it's pretty incredible. Rachel, we're going to let you wrap it up.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Big thank you to ICANN, as usual, who provide all the lighting for our show, and to our sponsors, Rode, Mike, and Kessler Crane. Be sure to head to the Zacuto store and use the coupon code BALLMOUNT20 to get 20% off the new Z-Rail ball mount. I'll put the link in the comments again. And you've got until December 31st to take advantage of our holiday gift boxes, where you can get great gifts from us and Kessler, ICANN, Hawkwoods for buying Zacuto gear from any retailer before the end of the year. We are actually taking the next 2 weeks off of the live show for the Christmas and New Year holidays, so we will see you all on January 9th. Have a happy holidays. Bye-bye.